And ho, ho, ho to you lovely people. Hope you had a good Christmas day, stateside yesterday, and for the rest of us, 2 days ago. I did. I'm still in the festive season, as you can see, playing with my pom-pom. Ding, ding, ding. Anyway, let's get on with this, because we've only got a tight program today, because I'm heading for the mountain, doing walking. Now, fuck. StreamYard, you piece of shit. Go to bed, nurse. Yes, go to bed if it's late. Get your good rested sleep. You can always watch this tomorrow. It's showtime. Yes, it is. In a festive way. That was in regards to the time that I have for British Isles. I didn't realise, rather than having PM, I'd actually have AM. Dopey. Yep. Yes, fucked up. I realise I fucked up on all of them, probably. Oops. Anyway, something to correct. Is it now, Lamps? Is this based on personal experience? Let's not go there. Everyone, we are starting to feel fat yet? Hope you are. A fat bird is a good bird. Do a lot of things with a fat bird. Evening all. It's a question of what you're feeling. Oh, yes, thank you, T2. Yes, it is a beautiful morning. Quite mild. For some reason, StreamYard wants to play with me. G'day, Lukey. Doesn't take much to shock you, does it? Yeah, good to have you here. Oh, thank you, Shell. Actually, my face is quite pink. I've been out in the sun for a number of days now. So, yes, trying to get a bit of colour. I'm getting more colour on my face than on my hands and legs. So it's not working as effectively. As my mate says, you look tanny all over. And I'll tell him to go on. Oh, yes, you want me to go back in time? Yes. Yes. The DeLorean is in service at the moment. Oh, you know. Blinky and Birdie. Oh, God. There goes the neighbourhood. The Stream Odyssey. Blinky. You know, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing this. You know, AI computer Harry will bring you under control. Blinky. G'day, Harriet. Fuck all. A good meal and a couple of glasses of wine. That was about it. I'm not childish enough. It doesn't work, you know. Even when you put the childish act on, they still don't give you presents. Damn. Yes, go back in time and get those special treats they give kids. Now that's a good son. Are they up for adoption? Oh God, Lamp's desperate. Here's free steak. Freebie, freebie, I want a freebie. Okay, yes, that can be the case. Yeah, look, it's funny on those sort of days when you turn up and you're the one, steaks, this sort of stuff and whatever. And a bit of oxalate juice. Slightly went down a bit the wrong way. And yeah, I just do my thing, eat, and keep my mouth shut when it comes to those sort of things. Unless people ask, particular, not worth it. You're there to have a good time, enjoy yourself. Yes, as long as you don't have any vegan relatives. Oh God, you just don't do Christmas with them. Vegan kibble for Christmas. Oh God, you can imagine. After that, they'd be occupying the toilet for hours. You wouldn't be able to get a chance to even take a leak. You'd have to go outside and take a pee. Yes. Always found it so strange that guys are in summer during Christmas. Yeah, it is a bit bizarre, isn't it? Yes. We're in the southern hemisphere, apparently. We're in a rounded globe, so we're in the southern hemisphere, tilted. So yes, but apparently that's all make-believe in some people's eyes. Yes. Nah. Yeah, some of us even go surfing. Yes, with skimpy apparel on, this sort of stuff. Yes, it is strange when you're having Christmas and not freezing your ass off, or around a fireplace. Yeah, it's a very different thing. I've experienced Christmas like in Greece, with snow around and stuff like that, and being around a fireplace and having a meal, stuff like that. Yeah, it's a very different experience compared to a summer experience when you're sort of barbecuing outside, outdoors, and it's a completely different experience. So yeah, not the same. And usually in Europe, you would also be things like spirits and stuff like that, where here, because it's warm, you'd be drinking things like colder beverages as well. He is a controversy, Blinky. You should know that, Shell. Just reminding all you lovely people, we've only got 2 hours today of the program, and then I'm bugging off out of here and going for a walk up the mountain and down the mountain and around the mountain. Is it? Well, I've actually enjoyed, I have to say, I've had Christmas both ways, and I actually enjoy them for different aspects. There is something nice about being around a fireplace, having a nice, like grappa or whiskey or something like that, and having a nice warm meal and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a different type of Christmassy experience. So in the Southern Hemisphere, here we're sort of in shorts, t-shirts, barbecuing outdoors, that sort of stuff. It's a completely different experience. Yes, especially Blinky in WA. Yes, my sister was actually indoors. They had 39 and she said, nah, I couldn't be bothered being outdoors. I just stayed indoors and had the air conditioning on. So my younger sister is, poor thing, all alone in WA. We definitely are. Oh, it's very festive. Hope you've got your hats on, Blinky. Oops. Thank you, StreamYard, for doing that to me. Yeah, look, it's 5 inches of snow. Oh, okay. Yeah, too much snow can be a problem. I can understand that. Yes. Yeah. I've been snowed in, so I know what the experience, the feeling. And especially having to go outdoors to collect things in the snow in the evening when it's bloody cold as. Yes, my experience in Northern Europe. In Southern Europe, but in the mountains. Yes. But in Northern Europe, it's even worse. I mean, a friend of mine lived in Germany, and he basically had to get up in the morning. I'm talking about 5:30 in the morning, turn the engine on of his vehicle so it could actually generate enough heat, and then try and slowly get the actual, all the snow and ice off the vehicle itself. Go in, have breakfast, and then come out and then drive off to work. Yeah, that's an experience. You do that every day for quite a few months, and I can tell you, not enjoyable. Yes, we don't get that severity down here. It's only some places in northern Greece and western Greece where I come from, especially in the mountainous areas, because we're flanked around with a whole lot of mountain ranges. So it tends to basically, and the coast is quite some kilometres away. So I used to go with a bicycle to the coast anyway, but when, like in summer, it gets a greenie on that area, can get like over 40 to the mid 40s. And in winter, it gets a bit cooler because the mountains around, all the sort of snow and sort of cold air coming down the major mountain range that cuts the entire country. So it's bindus, and so it can be very cold in that regard. But it's good for a tan. I used to basically just be in shorts as a youngster, ride around, and had a beautiful, beautiful tan. Yes. Now I'm struggling to get a tan back. All I basically get is fucking freckles. The worst thing is I get a couple of freckles. I've got a few on my forehead, and I get them around my sort of shoulders and stuff like that, which is bloody the worst thing, but I'm prone to freckles. It's even in my genetics, which shits me off no end. But if I get a good tan, you can't see them. That's the nice thing. But it's really hard in Tasmania to get a good tan. Anyway, I had my cry session. Move on, Harry. Yeah, yes. Actually, we had a whole lot of different. We had basically about 40% was pork, and about 40% was lamb, and about 20% was beef. So that is what we had. So Dad did make sure he sort of maximised the pork, because he prefers pork meat more than any of the other meats. But anyway, I sort of like to vary my meats. So we had shitloads of meat. Let's put it that way. I actually brought some back, and I've got it in the fridge, and then I stuck some in the deep fridge. I can defrost at a later stage. Too much. And then yesterday I went to a mate's place. I had a big damn steak and all that, and that was nice. Big fat steak like that, and just massive, filled the whole plate. So yeah, this morning I'm just not really into any food. Had the coffee and that's about it. So yes. Oh, very nice of you, Shell. Your thoughts on GNM, German New Medicine? Haven't heard about it. I'll have to do a bit of research on it. So I have no idea about what sort of medicine it is. Never heard of it. First time. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. I'll check it out. What does it do? Just put a comment. Sounds like fun. Yes. Anything for a free feed. I hear quail eggs are safer to have raw when it comes to salmonella. Yes and no. Depends. Probably. I've heard that as well. But I haven't seen any studies, and I haven't researched it, so I can't really tell you in that regard about quail eggs. But even, look, pastured eggs, if you're going to have, when I have raw yolks, I don't have the whites, just the yolks. It's pretty much I use, pastured eggs, like the ones that I showed you last time. I don't use any of the regular sort of stuff. Yes. And remember also the Dietary, the bacteria strain, and also some of the other beneficial bacteria strains also tend to fight these sort of pathogens like salmonella, C. diff, and all that sort of stuff. So yes, if you've got a good gut microbiome, it can actually minimize some of the effects. If you've got a pathogenic gut microbiome, you just come off a sad or vegan diet. I wouldn't recommend raw eggs and stuff like that. I would say fix your gut microbiome, transition yourself. Yeah, look, NDC, I don't know enough about even what it is. So before I actually even recommend anything or actually have an opinion on something, I really have to thoroughly research it. So, and that goes for lamps as well. I have to thoroughly research it and make sure that there are no issues associated with it. I got caught out on one issue with boron in terms of some of the electrolytes, where if you've got certain deficiency, it can exacerbate it. So you got to look at these things deep, because if you're going to be recommending anything to people, there can be consequences. So you've got to be careful about these things. I'd rather say just use the stuff that you know, and when we know more, yep. So people seem to have this aversion to rush to new things like mad without thinking about the consequences. Would your ancestors have used this or eaten this or whatever? Probably not. Well, should you? Is it a good biohack or whatever? And under what sort of conditions should you have it? Could it cause some other dysregulation? What the term, should it be a short term? It's like the B vitamins, taking a certain dose for 3 months and only 3 months to restore the bacteria that produce in your gut those sort of beneficial vitamins. There is dose dependency and a time dependency for everything. So we've got to be very careful about these things, just not blanketly just recommending things because it's the new thing. It could have a number of side effects if it's not used within strict clinical, therapeutic, and dose dependent and monitoring. So so some stuff you got to be really careful with, guys. Don't experiment. You've only got one body and one life. So you got to be careful with these things. Cold hands, warm heart. Yes. My mum lived in Alaska for a couple of years in the late 70s. She told me that they left the car on something during a storm, just to be able to find them in the morning. Okay. Yeah, look, I've never been to that. Well, actually, I can't say I haven't. Not an Alaskan sort of environment. I mean, I know the mountains of Greece in winter can become really, really sort of similar, really cold and really snowed in. They can be really rough. Yeah, but I don't know whether that's the same sort of experience, so I'm going to be careful with those sort of things. And so basically that's -7 Celsius for the rest of us, 7.2. So bloody cold. I wouldn't be going outdoors. Let's put it that way. And you're a bird, just be honest about it. It doesn't affect you. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Can't get away from freckles. It's a freckly day. Yes, yes. Yeah, probably. That's probably my problem. Yes, not heady enough. Yes. Heady isn't a heady hattie. Good day, Angela. Really? I don't give a shit. I can expose anything I like. Yeah, me mostly yolks, raw yolks as well. So biotin deficiency could potentially be a problem. So got to be careful with those things. Too many raw eggs. No, just a cap. Just a cap. That's all it is, just a cap. The chair's quite lower. It's a low sort of, it's just basically the cap. That's all it is. Maybe I'll actually move forward as well, don't know, just to be closer to you. Don't know. Maybe I'm growing. I'm a growing little boy. Yeah, that's it. Yep. I get the angle. Shit. That's a lot of snow. It's a lot of snow. Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. Yeah, we definitely don't need to see that. Oops. Is that a whack? Stop moving. And debt consumed them for several years as well. Yep. Yep. I did make my comment earlier. You studied and practiced. Is this some sort of a diet thing? It's just, now you've got my curiosity going. Gee. does it stand for? Can you actually tell me what it stands for? Just put it in there so I can actually know what the damn thing it is, what you're actually practicing. Yeah, exactly. But, knowing Blinky, where he sticks his, yeah, potentially, I'd say. That's a bit of a Freudian slip, wouldn't you say, Kitty? I would say so. A bit of revelations there from Blinky. God. I bet she doesn't. Yes, the egg thing is very popular amongst you lovely people. I can understand with birds, you know, their preoccupation with eggs is just, it's sickening. That's exactly right. Oh God, get off the freckles. Hey, get your head out of the dirt as well. Dirty Blinky. Oops. Thank you, StreamYard, for trying to fuck it all up for me. Have you seen any research on carnivore keto reverses primary usual kind of kidney disease damage like it does for diabetic cystic CKD? Pretty sure I've damaged from NSAIDs. Well, what I've actually seen is from ketogenic diets. So, and usually it depends at what stage you are in the progression of any kidney issues in order to basically, and the right therapeutic approach can vary in that regard. So yeah, I have seen research that basically shows improvements in kidney function and all that. And as long as you get the sugar, the blood pressure out and stuff like that, things seem to settle quite well over time. It doesn't happen miraculously quick. But most people that get to kidney damage and kidney issues, it's a long progression of diabetes and, you know, and all these sort of issues. So it's not something that happened overnight. It's something that takes a number of years to progress, and it will take a number of years to reverse in some regards. I know that fasting is a very quick way of basically improving. So intermittent fasting and cycling and stuff like that really helps. I've seen a lot of things when it comes to, I mean, Jason Fung, he's done a lot of work in that area as well, and a number of his clients, because he's a nephrologist, a number of his clients that have employed fasting, his protocol. So you can go to check Jason Fung's protocol, and that it also improves kidney function. So there's a number of things out there. There's plenty of literature and stuff like that. I haven't actually focused on kidney disease and stuff like that because there's so much, you know. I usually say to people, go to Jason Fung. I've looked at his work. It's sound. And I've looked at some of the other people in the keto community that are focused on that. And I say, well, it's sound. I usually try to bring new things to the community or things that people are not talking about. So when it comes to these sort of things, yep, you can get reversal. The funny thing is you can even get reversal on a very low fat, high carbohydrate diet as well for certain types of kidney disease. Walter Kempner actually did that. Again, it's getting rid of the Randall cycle. So, but obviously you can't sustain that up to a year only, and then really things start going haywire. So the best way, something that can be sustained much longer to get better therapeutic effects with kidney disease, is the ketogenic diet. So, which is the more the therapeutic, where you bring your protein down, not too low, like you would do with a therapeutic, but around about 15, and fat to around about 85 with very little carbohydrate in there, and with some fasting to basically improve the autophagy and the cleaning out of that sort of stuff, and some supplementation as well can be used either with organ meats or with regular supplements. But it can take a bit of time, but it can work eventually. But there is Jason Fung does have a protocol as a nephrologist, specifically with fasting and keto. And that's where I would go. I would go there, look at the actual protocol and implement that. Anyway, getting fluffy from all the Christmas treats. Oh, you've been abusing yourself. That doesn't surprise me. Been looking at all over the web, PubMed, only seen one bit about age-related lots of PK, PC, KD, and diabetic, kidney disease. Yeah, look, go to can't remember his actual. Look, I'll actually pin some stuff like I did with the folate stuff for Zach in my previous live stream. It's really hard in live streams to try and look up this sort of stuff and all that. But I'll look at some of the protocols and all that, and I'll pin some of that stuff tonight. And you'll be able to go to the links and look at some of the protocols that have been used to basically as therapeutic options. What's he saying? Oh yeah, oh the fluffy, yeah, we do. We definitely do. Yes, we did. Well, I did. I don't know. I think from the comments that people are saying out there, they did as well. Harry, I can't eat eggs. Keep making me ill. Am I missing any key nutrients by not eating them? You're probably actually missing choline. The key ones would be choline and also selenium, and choline would be probably the two principal ones. Most of the others you can get. I mean, even retinol you can get from other fats, butter and stuff like that. Yeah, I would say the two key ones. And I would say, well, if you want more selenium, add a bit of tuna in, a bit of liver, you'll get a bit, so if you're missing out in that regard. And choline, again, liver is a good source of choline or a supplement. Like I sometimes, when I get sick and tired of eating eggs every day, I usually just use my choline supplement. So that's another option. So there's that. Yes, and remember, you need choline to export fat out of the liver, keep your liver healthy, and to make sure that you've got good bile motility through the bile ducts and everything else. You need taurine. So if you're over, especially if you're over 50, an easy option is to supplement taurine, or to basically eat taurine-rich foods, which I've actually already got somewhere in my videos I already discussed. I'll probably do a specific one for all the different foods and their amounts. It's one that I'm planning to do, but I just haven't done, which probably will help people sort of prioritize certain types of animal foods to get some of these nutrients correctly. Yes, something to do, but I haven't done. Yes. Yes, that's true. I do. So I got the benefit out of it. Yeah, stomach acid really helps. Maintaining good stomach acid is very important. keep the pathogens out and keep the, what is it doing now? For fuck's sake, StreamYard. Yes. As I've always said, guys, it all starts in the stomach and flows from there. You get the stomach acid correctly, and then everything flows beautifully. That doesn't work, and things start not working below. And then when they're not working below, then you need to address all sorts of things: gut microbiome, gallstones, gallbladder, blah, blah, blah. You know, most of these problems of, you know, digestive problems always start in the stomach. They always start in the stomach, and it's usually people on sad diets or vegan diet or plant-based diets that have been consuming foods that basically keep the pH too high. And as a consequence, when you don't, you're not basically utilizing, you know, animal foods, you end up basically not being excreting bile. And if you're eating a lot of fructose and shit like that, that can sort of build up cholesterol and fats and stuff like that in your liver. It can start causing these gallstone issues. It's the old thing, use it or lose it. Your gallbladder is supposed to be excreting every day bile to break down fats. If you're on a low-fat diet with a lot of sugar and shit like that, well, it's not going to be working. Your pH isn't going to go as low. So a lot of the modern diseases are because we basically put the wrong things into our stomach. And as we're putting the wrong things into our stomach, some of the systems below that are the support mechanisms, you know, your pancreas and its excretion of pancreatic, enzymes and other things, you know. Then on the other hand, you know, the system that actually right at the top of where you empty your stomach, you have this like an alkaline type mucus type thing that actually gets released to basically, you know, but if it's not it doesn't get released. So that can cause, you know, as much released, and that can cause issues as well. You know, so your bile doesn't excrete properly, and then it doesn't cleanse your small intestine to basically get rid of any overgrowth. Then you get Sibo. So all these things that get out of whack below the stomach is because first your stomach isn't working. And I've been saying this for ages. I mean, I'm like a broken record on this. Fix your stomach, guys. Fix your stomach. And the things that will acidify your stomach the most are basically meat and salt. So get the fucking meat in there and the salt to basically acidify that stomach. And in the early stages, if your acidity isn't low enough, use HCl, you know, to basically increase the stomach acid. And over time, you'll be able to kill back the H. pylori and other pathogens that are in there that are basically inhibiting the release of these, you know, hydrogen ions that are required. Anyway, let's move on. More on eggs. Well, you check your nails and you check your hair follicles. Is your hair thinning out? Your nails showing grooves and stuff like that? It's usually a bit of a giveaway. Yeah, that's right. Not growing as fast, right? Yep. Yes, biotin is very essential. You got feathers, you don't have hair. So, are you suffering any missing feathers? Oh, God. So concerned about these things, aren't you, Blinky? I am concerned about you. Yeah, that's another thing. Definitely flaking and breaking. Yes, definitely. German new medicine. I thought crack pottery. Just stumbled upon it today. Yeah, look, it could be good. I don't know. Unless I look at it. Anybody have a link to it or what it's actually called, so I know what I'm searching for? Because I actually put that in and brought up some other bloody thing which has nothing to do with medicine. So this my browser is redirecting me to other crap. And yes, we won't go into it. Not diet, a system of diagnosis and treatment utilizing mapped brain and physical or psychological problems. Don't know about it. Yeah, I'll have to look into it. So it's a system of diagnosis and treatment, okay, of psychological problems, physical and psychological problems. Okay. Yeah, interesting. There you've got my curiosity going. I mean, I've been talking about, things that have to do. Isn't German new medicine the idea that past trauma mainly psychological, affects certain organs and causes disease like cancer and all that? We've never been able to show causality of that sort. We know that psychology or your psychological state can be affected by both diet and your circumstances, and they can have an effect. Remember, there's a connection between your gut and your brain. There's communication between the two. And so, you've got all these sort of, you can have effects where nice calming parasympathetic, or you can have a lot of sympathetic, more, wired and stuff like that. And they can have ramifications on your endocrine system, your gut microbiome, a whole lot of biological processes. So yes, there is a relationship between psychology and biology. There's sort of the brain-body connection and interaction in that regard. And certain traumatic things can actually increase certain types of psychological states that can actually have an effect on the body. But I've never been able to see causal effect of psychological stuff in terms of cancer and certain other things. It may have an indirect contributing factor, but it's never been proven in the literature. I haven't seen anything. So if somebody does have anything that can actually show mechanism in that regard, I'd be very interested. But I haven't seen anything myself. So it's always dangerous when you actually, what I find is a lot of practitioners in medicine, like the MDs, tend to have this reductionist approach with pharmacology. The NDs, which is the naturopathic doctors, tend to have this reductionist approach to supplements. Supplements are everything, and they'll supplement you to hell and cause all sorts of dysregulation sometimes. And then you have, some of the old Freudian type thinkers, which has to do with that Central European sort of some of the beliefs that everything is a trauma or childhood trauma or whatever, and there's a big driver and all that of a lot of disease. And that can be a very dangerous thing as well. It's a very reductionist model. It's a very narrow model, and human physiology is far more complex than that. So, it's a sort of an interplay of psychology, genetics, environment, diet, and all sorts of things that are interplaying, and it's a much more complex picture. And when you tend to jump on these reductionist sort of views, you tend to basically miss a whole lot of others because you're excluding a whole lot of other things. And that's why I find it less holistic and too reductionist. And I suspect I will find it like that because I've heard similar stuff before and I've rejected it because I couldn't find any mechanism or any proof for those sort of things. So, yeah, I suspect I'll come up with a very similar attitude and opinion to that sort of stuff as well. But as I said, I'm always interested because even stuff that basically, let me just show that's, why isn't that coming up? For some reason, it won't come up. So for some reason, mate, that won't come up. Let me see if I actually put it in. Will it come up? Comes up for me. There you go. And it was basically Figo HD. Why isn't error? Try again. What? Yeah, I don't know what's happening there, mate. Yeah, because he Figo _HD was actually directing that to lamps. This one I take, he said, and it's not coming up for some reason. So for some reason, I think we've had this problem with a number of people where for some reason YouTube has changed, bloody YouTube again, I know, it's changed the thing. We had the stuff last time and I said to the guys, just email me content and then I can actually show it, because for some reason I can put links up and I've gone through trying to actually find, and I can't bloody find anything. Yeah, I don't know how to. Yeah, I think if you're, exactly, that's right. If you're basically a moderator or the owner of the channel, which is myself, it does come up. So I think other people, they've changed the restrictions for URLs, and I don't know how to bloody change it. So I'm going to look into it. I haven't had a response from YouTube yet because they're fucking useless. But anyway, what's new? In that regard, they are fucking useless, and it pisses me off because I just can't get stuff to sort. And you guys, want to put images up so I can actually show them, and we have a bit of fun with that. And they're really just fucking me up in that regard. I'm bloody annoyed, but yeah, bloody YouTube. So what is it? Vitamin D3, the miraculous results, extreme high doses of the sunshine, my experiments, blah, blah, huge doses, 25, 50,000 and 100,000. Which is this book here, which I haven't read. Yeah. When it comes to high dose of vitamin D, yeah, it's not gonna. Yeah, I will put that up. Yep. So. So yeah, I'll have to look into it. I haven't actually looked into it, so I will look into it and I will report back. So that's the other one. Vitamin D, you always need to balance with, make sure with MK4 and retinol. With us in the carnivore community, it's less of a problem. So, and I've been quite clear about and definitive about the importance of vitamin D. Most people are deficient or have too low vitamin D, and really we need to get more vitamin D in our diets or from the sun, for the simple reason that our bodies require it, because it's not only the stored, the 25-OH-D3, but also and then what the kidneys do a conversion of it to the 125-OH-D3. We also need free. There are receptors in the prostate, in the breast tissue as well for women in particular, that basically require to regulate certain cell proliferation, and they prevent from too much cell proliferation in the breast tissue or in the prostate. So very important in terms of cancer protection for people with free D3 flowing through their body. So very important in that regard, because those tissues require it as well. There are enzymes in there that basically control cell proliferation and stuff like that. And I've told you guys for a long time, the matrix metalloproteinases, which is all the collagen degrading enzymes throughout the whole body, the lung ones in particular, D3, and a whole lot of other ones, MK4 and retinol. Very important, the fat soluble vitamins for that regulation and to prevent major problems. Would you advise someone on dialysis? As I said, check the stuff that Jason Fung has done. A lot of the fasting protocols that he's got specific protocols for people on dialysis and stuff like that, and also dietary advice. So that's what you need to go and look at somebody that's done actually the clinical work. So go and check Jason Fung. I mean, what I do is I demystify the science, and then I give you the best scientific approach to certain things and all that in a very generalist way. Specific protocols, when things have really gone out of whack to a severe level, there you need basically a person who's in our community that actually has done these protocols on his own patients and seen results. So I don't have patients to experiment, or you know what I mean. I'm not saying I experiment on that he experiments on, but to basically validate whether something works or doesn't. So that's where you need to go and look at Jason Fung's work. I mean, I could basically go and also just regurgitate the same things, but go to the source. You come to me for other things that Jason or Sean Baker or other people are not involved, because they are caught up in their own area. So people that are in the psychology area, they focus on the nutrition side of psychology. People that are things like that are deal with bone health, and they tend to focus there. I'm a sort of a generalist, so I focus on all these different areas, but in the general sort of way for people that have got minor issues that are transitioning from one diet to another, and I can and certain ailments. But when it comes to someone with dialysis, you really need to have somebody like Mary that's really good at this sort of stuff, because they can coach you through a specific protocol, and there are also some, you can take certain soups to get nutrients, but at the same time, don't stress too much the actual kidneys. So there's a whole lot of things and products out there, and Mary knows a lot about them, because she actually is in one of a company that they actually sell some of this sort of stuff as well, which can be very useful. So you don't have to do it yourself. You can just buy it and do it and use it, so to speak. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff. And that's where I sort of push people towards, because I don't sell those products. I don't have access to be able to provide you with that sort of stuff. And that's where another issue is. Also, where you're located, by contacting Jason or one of his, they may actually direct you to somebody in your locality that actually can monitor you properly, because the current MDs, they just want to push drugs on you, or at least these people can transition you with some medication and make adjustments to the medication and the diet, so you can move in a very proper way, transitioning. So there are things that I can do, and things where I don't have the equipment or access to that sort of stuff to be able to do that. I may know about these issues, and it's not. And I can tell you one thing: meat isn't causing it, and never did. I mean, people like the Samburu people are consuming up to 4 grams, and I've done a thing that I did with Bart ages ago, 4 grams per kilo body weight. They consume shitloads of meat. Never been an issue anywhere recorded. It's usually people that have been on sad diets, eating shitloads of sugar, and engaging the Randall cycle, a lot of sugar and fat at the same time, and pushing up all these growth pathways and creating a lot of this damage. Once you've got the damage, then you may still need some medications adjusted with diet and all that sort of stuff, and monitoring. So something that I can't do. So you really need to basically have a proper professional who's part of our community that can actually coach you through, plus the testing and all that sort of stuff, because they need to know where you are at. Like, me from Hobart, there's no bloody way in hell that I could basically test you and know exactly where you are and make adjustments. It's not going to happen. You need to get these sort of people. So, yeah. People on YouTube can't, even people like me that have got quite a bit of knowledge, can't cover everything. It's just impossible, because, some of these things need to be done within a clinical setting. Simple as that, guys. Don't put your life at risk, please. Yeah. You've got to be very careful with reductionism and just sort of one single focus. The body is far more holistic and has a lot of different things that are pulling at it and affecting it. So got to be very careful in that regard. Yes, please hit the like button, please, guys. I bet you do. We know. I push any button you wish. Lamps. Bloody hell. Oh, God. Shooting blanks. Oh, God. And no. Just ignore him. He's trying to wind you up like a wind-up toy. Remember those little bird wind-up toys? Yes. That evil Blinky. Yeah. Keto diets are great for things like seizures and stuff like that. There are therapeutic ones which you can do for those sort of things in that regard. You got to be also very careful not to, like people use a lot of electrolytes and stuff like that, and I find that can actually make things worse. So you got to be really careful with stuff like that. Get it from the food and just keep your salt up, and that should be fine in that regard. So you've got to be very careful. I know people sometimes over supplement some of these things and can create more havoc as well. They can have an effect on that. Well, you know what? Most people wouldn't think of that, mate. They wouldn't think. They see you as a fluffy bird, and that's what we think. Exactly. Oh God, too much information. Keep it in your pants. Oh God. Heart is one of the best sources of CoQ10. So the organ meat heart and things like liver and other things do have CoQ10, but the highest source of CoQ10 is basically hearts. And hearts are like other muscles, so but they've got mitochondrial density much higher than any other organ in the body, because if your heart stops, you're stuffed. So basically, if you want that, just go to your butcher and ask them to give you hearts, and cut it into, you can go like 40% or a third heart and regular minced meat, and mix it all up. That's one way of actually creating patties that are much easier to consume for some of you guys. Heart tends, because it's very fibrous, tends to be very stringy. So in that regard, because of the collagen, we're talking about a lot of collagen fibers, so it tends to be very stringy. So in that regard, I would say, the way I've done it is mincing. So for my own heart to support, mincing the heart with, and combining it with other, mince. That's the way I would do it to maximize my CoQ10 from food. Yeah. But I wouldn't eat them like that. God, they're just too, basically too much collagen, too much fibrous sort of stuff. So yes, and it needs that, because it needs to, it's like peristalsis in your gut. Has a lot of collagen to be able to, push the stuff there through. It's the same thing with the heart. It needs a lot of sort of collagen type, structures there to basically have that really strong, elastic and strong strength to it and all that, compared to a regular muscle. So just, I wouldn't have it like that. Get your butcher to mince it. Can't remember now what question, but anyway. Selenium in heart as well. Yes, it does have selenium. It has a lot of things. Yes. But the CoQ10 is the big one, which where a lot of us are interested in for our bodies. What do you think about beta blockers? I don't think a lot of them are beta blockers. I don't think you should be taking beta blockers. Let's put it that way. I mean, are you? I would not take. I would not take any. The safest thing is to get everything from your food and get off meds. Guys, you just have to get off meds. There are cases where some people may need it for a certain time. Well, fix your gut microbiome. You go on a B50 and actually a vitamin D, and I can tell you within 3 months, a lot of your anxiety and a lot of these things are going to settle down. A lot of people haven't fixed their guts as well, which is another issue in itself. Using pharmaceuticals is not the way to go. Ultimately, it'll just create more problems for you in the long run. It's just basically masking the problem. It's not fixing the problem. So you need to fix the problem. Drugs are not going to fix it for you. Any type of drugs or medications or stuff. So yeah, I've heard about it, but it's not something I don't recommend. These sort of things. People just think, unfortunately, especially in today's world, everybody thinks that a pill can fix your problems. It can't. It just masks the problem. It gives you a bit of relief, but it won't fix your problem. And it can cause other dysregulation over time. If you become dependent on this and create more dysregulation, you'll be far worse. You'll never get out of this cycle, of meds. You need to walk away from that sort of stuff, and you need to basically look at fixing, am I digesting properly? Fix the digestion, fix these things. And I'll be doing more videos in regards to, giving you guys information on how to do this sort of stuff. I mean, it's a lot of it's in my live streams because I haven't done the videos and I'm just trying to give you information out. But yeah, that's another crap, yeah, man, just take it, rapamycin or metformin. No, that's garbage. There's no science for that. That is absolute nonsense. Metformin basically can cause a lot of deficiencies, B1 deficiency, and countless deficiencies, mineral deficiencies, and all sorts of things. I'm not going to live to 100, I can tell you, HD. Definitely not. Rapamycin is crap. If you listen to what I said yesterday in my live stream, you would know why you shouldn't be doing that sort of shit. Your body, if you're on a carnivore diet, eating meat and nothing else, or animal-based products like that, your insulin to glucagon ratio is going to be 1.3. I don't give a shit if Sinclair's an idiot. Anyway, and I'll tell you why he's an idiot. He's an idiot for a whole lot of reasons. I follow Sinclair, but he's an idiot on that. He takes high doses, and all those rats were actually using high doses. I've actually got a study, which I haven't shown yet, which basically shows that a lot of the stuff he talks about is completely and utterly, they've actually done clinical studies in humans, not in rats. So it's complete and utter fucking nonsense. I know he pushes metformin and a whole lot of other things. Yeah, crap. Absolutely. He's got no idea, let alone he doesn't have even an idea that NMN and NR are not going to work for him shortly because he's getting too old. And as he gets too old, CD38 keeps on going up. And the versions that he takes are the ones that he actually uses on the rats, which are given intravenously. So, and these are very high doses and all that. And that's what he gives his family. But all the other supplemental stuff, not well absorbed, and doesn't really work because I've actually seen studies. I just haven't done the damn video for it to basically debunk that nonsense anyway. But yes, maybe I'll do it in the next couple of days because I hear a lot about that man and his nonsense. Anyway, let's move on. These freckles, and more freckles. Yes. The best thing for NAD and the suppression to normal youthful levels, it's basically niacin. Eat your fucking pork. Pork is a good source of niacin, and so is tuna. And don't worry about, mercury. It's got shitloads of a higher ratio of selenium to mercury, so the selenide will chelate it out of the system. So not a problem. Unless it's a shark, which tends to have more mercury than selenium. That's a different thing altogether. I wouldn't be eating that. But tuna is not an issue. Yep. There is selenium there's actually slightly more in the liver, but yes, there is in the heart as well. But my focus when it comes to heart is more the CoQ10, which is one of the highest sources. Anyway, Good, good. Look, some people actually will get hearts and actually get their own either a machine, or they'll get the traditional sort of mincing, sort of hand mincing devices in their homes, which they can do it themselves. Yeah, I think mincing and combining with other meats, different organ meats and all that, is a really good way of actually providing a very good profile in that regard. Raising 18 women. Yeah, look, probably because I grew up with organ meats as a youngster. Yeah, I don't mind the taste. I think some people that haven't grown up with them, it's much better to basically combine them in other things, or use herbs like like liver, cut them in thin strips, putting a lot of herbs like rosemary, marinating them in rosemary type water, stuff like that, so it permeates the rosemary, and then cooking them, and then it changes the taste quite a bit. So there are a whole lot of different ways you can actually do things to basically get those foods into the body without having to buy expensive supplements, which is usually, not that they don't do, but they're just too fucking expensive, especially if you want to provide good nutrition to a whole family. Getting the actual real stuff is actually cheaper without paying the labor cost of somebody cutting it up and putting it in a supplement. That as well, you can. If you do it long enough, you get a taste for something. The taste actually becomes more pleasant. It's like anything. Yes, I used to be fed brains as a child quite a bit. Lamb's brains was a regular thing. Maybe that's why I'm very smart. Yes, because Mummy used to feed me lamb's brains. All that beautiful cholesterol and phospholipids. Remember, the brain needs choline, phosphatidylserine, phosphatidylcholine, and shitloads of phospholipids. They are the thing, and the DHA and all that, they are the magic that transforms, gives you a smart brain, makes you a brainiac. So is bird. Yes, I have tried that in lard. Yes, I do. Actually, when it comes to, I've cooked it in tallow, but I actually prefer it in lard. So, I haven't used bacon grease, but I have used lard. So, because I actually buy pastured organic lard. So, I actually have to reorder because I don't have it anymore. I've used it all. And so, got to get some. I actually got this other one, a tallow thing. It's sort of a bone brothy tallow combination. And I'm going to test it with some of my cooking. So I'm going to combine it and see what it's like. And I will report back. Yes. We'll always have to be careful with reductionism. Even with D3, there's a diminishing returns over a certain level. And you have to think about how much would I get in nature normally. You're looking at probably about 20 odd thousand I use naturally if you're out in the sun all day and all that, maybe a bit more, but that's about it. You wouldn't get in the high levels. The high levels need to be used therapeutically for short amount of times to build up your D levels. Once you do that, then you cut off to those lower levels, which are the more natural physiological levels. So we've got to be very careful not to go into reductionism, because you can create imbalances with the other fat-soluble vitamins. So, and when I up my D levels, I up my retinol, and I up my I usually cod liver, which is the easiest cheat from Rosetta, which is the safest cod liver oil out there. So I actually balance it out with that and high supplementation of MK4. It's not a non-issue then. And then I'll come back down to physiological levels for the person. I did that for myself ages ago. I don't need to do it now. So, I'm out in the sun. And the only reason I've got the supplementation there is so I can go 50 to 100,000 I use for a week if I get the Corona. So, yes. And we're not talking about the Corona beer here. These are icky, icky, icky. You can marinate them, and they do improve. You'll have a smoothie of anything. He's still got his vegan blender. Do you realise that he's still got his old vegan blender? He'll smoothie anything. You've invested money in it, so you might as well. I bet it's a really top of the line blender as well. Yeah, that's true. They do. You can actually combine them. Actually, I've even done, just to remind, larding. So you can, like in meat, like in if you've got, let's say you're doing a roast and you drill in and you put lard in, you can do the same thing to kidneys as well. You can lard them up. So that's another thing you can do. Anyone know the nutrients are lost when making jerky? Yes, we do. You lose more of the actually water-based, B vitamins more than anything else. My coffee's going cold. Yeah, bloody YouTube. Exactly. Yes. I complain. They ignore me. I still complain. They ignore me. And sometimes they actually do something out of the blue. That's YouTube for you. Oh, we just remembered you. Oh, you're not that important. But we've got a bit of time, so we'll do something for you. You upset YouTube gods. Yes, exactly. I blame Bart as well. Yes, that evil bald man, the bad bald man is all to blame. It's not the YouTube gods. He upset them. He didn't sacrifice himself to the YouTube gods. They lust for blood from Kiwis. Yes, one of their favourite blood sources is Kiwi blood. Can you? Oh, electronically. Zap. There you go. You've all got it now. We're rolling through. Oh, that was me. We'll ignore that bloke. He fucking talks too much. That's the thing. I should fucking block him. He just talks too much. I will block him in about 40 minutes' time. Yes. Unfortunately, we can't add things. We don't know. We pretty much don't know. It seems the body will take up a horrendous amount. An absolute horrendous amount. You know, so I've seen studies where they've given just massive amounts. It just gets all sucked up. There's got to be a threshold somewhere, but do we know? You know, you can take 45 milligrams 3 times a day, which is some of the highest doses that I see. And people doing that for months upon months upon months, and I've even done it myself and tested. And it actually doesn't even remain in the system very long. It gets uptaken so quickly by the body, it's not a joke. So the body will use it. It's very beneficial for the body for all sorts of things. So yes. So I don't know whether there is a toxic limit or whether the body can excrete it, because there's no damn studies on it. We've only looked at supplemental, and we know there is some excretion rate through the kidneys and feces, but do we know exactly what the limit is, or storage capacity or utilization by cells? There's no real good studies, unfortunately. Biggest problem is that MK4 doesn't circulate in the blood. It gets sucked in by every single cell. Every single cell is sitting there waiting. They see MK4, they literally upregulate. Their receptors come literally, they bulge out to suck it in. That just tells me it's so, the body really wants it. It loves it. The more the merrier. Where the levels are, none of us know. You know, there is no, I've seen all sorts of different levels being quoted out there by some people, but nobody's actually got any science to back it up. Absolutely zero. And all I see in every single damn study is when they're actually, and it's usually the majority of the stuff is actually the manufacturers of MK7, which we know that about a third of the population can't even convert to the animal form, which is MK4. And what do they tell you? Oh, it doesn't stay in the bloodstream for very long, for very little time. And they're mega dosing MK4, and it says, oh, it vanishes out of the bloodstream, as if something sitting in the bloodstream is a good thing. No, we know iron and many other things shouldn't be in the bloodstream. We know fats and other things and sugar should be in the bloodstream. That is just the way the body, through the lymphatic system and the blood system, we move nutrients around. They're not supposed to be there in great numbers. They're actually either being taken up by organs or stored. And if they're not being stored or taken up or excreted and they're hanging around too much, they can get damaged, they can be oxidized, they can be, blah, blah, blah. So this sort of crazy notion that, that a vitamin should basically stay in your bloodstream for ages. I mean, if somebody said that about iron, they'd go, what the fuck? And there's some anecdotal stuff that, MK7 that circulates and stays in can degrade and can be a sort of a pro-inflammatory or pro-oxidant. This is sort of based on other researchers that have looked into it, and they haven't done clinical studies. It's just basically they've picked up on these biomarkers, but unless we see real clinical studies, we won't know. But I suspect that anything that's sitting and circulating for ages is not a good thing. It should be used or stored. It shouldn't be circulating for ages. We know that anything that circulates for ages, even chylomicrons and everything else, means there's some dysfunction. Something isn't being utilized properly or stored properly for a later day. Something's not working properly. But these manufacturers are the only people that have been doing studies showing mega doses of MK4 being absorbed, or basically not in the bloodstream anymore, which basically means cells are taking it up rapidly. So that tells me that I know the brain needs MK4. It's so important for brain function, let alone a whole lot of other areas in the body. So I don't know what the upper limit is. Absolutely nobody. There is no RDA for it because we don't fucking know. Simple as that. And if anybody, it's only some idiot gurus out there that make up BS RDIs or whatever, but officially there is no RDIs. You will not find on any official website, government website, an RDI for MK4. So, because they haven't done the research. We just know from these manufacturers of supplements, of MK7 supplements, that poo-poo the MK4 ones in order to basically make theirs more important, even though a third of the population can't even fucking convert them to the animal form that we need, which is MK4. All animals have MK4. You go to a crocodile, a chimp, a monkey, one of the small monkeys, a gorilla, a horse, a dog, a cat, and all that, a rat, anything, they all use MK4. That is the natural animal form of menaquinone. And all the other menaquinones usually get converted to MK4 eventually. So, and the only one that's got a diverse menaquinone profile is dairy, especially things like, in particular, cheeses, because of the certain bacterial strains that are being used. So, yes, crazy stuff. Anyway, yes, exactly, kitty. Take 3 tablets, Lajaro. Yes, good stuff. If you're in winter over there and you want to protect yourself against the corona, and we're not talking about the beer here, the Corona beer, not that one. That one you don't need to protect yourself with D3. Just a few pills a week on a decent dose during the winter. It's probably sort out in summer. Get the sun on the skin. Yep. Yes, that's what I'm getting. The sun on the skin. Just need up my retinol for a bit more UV protection and my niacin. Because niacin actually reduces UV damage. So that's why they put it in the skin supplements. Yes, those very expensive ones to protect you from UV, when you can just have a cheap niacin pill or eat more pork, which is a high source of niacin, and tuna. I have spitty vitamin D lamp and red lamp eventually on the way. Yep, it can be useful. Nothing like being cheeky. Yes, we love being cheeky on this channel. We're all cheeky, especially this one. This one is ultra cheeky. Blinky poo, exactly. Blinky poo, yep. And this one is, yes, trying to be a bit more cheeky. Yes, you need to work on it, Bowbird. You need to work on it. You will lose your classification of T2 if you don't work on your cheekiness. not a problem, mate. Yep, yeah. And try and get a doctor. So if it's not you and it's somebody in your relatives or whatever, find a practitioner that understands the same stuff as our community understands. So then they'll make the proper recommendations in terms of diet, in terms of other things like electrolytes can be an issue. They need to be managed as well. So there's a whole lot of, so that's what I'm saying. Somebody from a distance on YouTube cannot manage all these sort of things. These are really important. Electrolytes are very important when it comes to dialysis issues. All these sort of things, they need to be managed properly by a professional that knows his shit as well. So that's why I'm saying, don't rely on people on the internet from a distance. You can't manage those things from a distance very well without testing and all sorts of other things. So yeah, you can miss things and people can really just get worse and potentially be put at risk. So you can't take those. That's why I don't take those things on, because things that need to be observed closely and monitored and tested is something that I can't do from a distance. And it would be very naughty on my side to do that, and put people at risk. No, they need a professional and need to be on a protocol, very careful with these sort of things. Yes, there's a lot of people out there pushing shit, and that can be dangerous. So don't know enough about it, mate. I'll look it up, because I usually go through all these after, and I do check them up to see what they're like. Yeah, I never recommend anything unless I've actually researched it. So and I don't know about anything about that product. So we will move on. So you reckon the old theory not to mix your foods unintentionally aligns itself with the Randall cycle? Yep. Yes. Look, in nature, you would have had seasonal foods. In the winter, it'd be primarily animal foods or some fermented foods that you would have had. And when you talk about fermented foods, the sugar's fermented out. So let's say you had some pickled cucumbers and pickled this and pickled that sort of foods. Basically, the sugar's been fermented out. So it tends to be a sort of a probiotic, plus, has very low sugar. So you're not engaging the Randall cycle. So you'd be consuming more animal-based fats through that winter period. And then in spring, you would have basically a lot of the greens, like spring onions, that sort of stuff, those sort of foods that would be combined with animal foods. And then as summer came in, you would have more of like things like tubers and things like that would start to appear. And you would cook those to deactivate a lot of the anti-nutrients, or do a number of things like that, and that would be combined with animal food still. But at the same time, you'll also be outdoors, working outdoors in the sun, getting deuterium depletion through UV radiation. So again, that would be mitigating the deleterious effects of some of that food. And then basically and this, we're talking about modern people, we're talking about people before refrigeration. We're not talking about even further back. Further back, you basically just towards the end of summer and the beginning of the fall, in that period, you basically saw a period where there was a fatty animals and a lot of fruit, and for a very limited time, usually about a month, around that amount, 6 weeks at most. And you would combine those foods and you would fatten up, because you would be engaging the Randall cycle. You'd be putting too much fat and sugar from the foods you were eating in nature at that moment in time. And that would basically mean that those mechanisms would be down-regulated at the cells, So, and as a consequence of that, you would basically have a certain level of insulin resistance, which is a good thing to have if you're having it for a short amount of time, and you would fatten up. And that works, perfectly. And we see it actually even in nature, like in the Amazon, there's a fish that's usually this small, and then when it hits, there are 2 seasons that it fattens up, and it's the time when the Amazon basin floods, and these fish will come from the deep waters to the shallower part of the waters where the trees and their fruit are literally on the surface of the water, and they will eat that fruit and they will fatten up, and then they will swim back down, because there are 2 seasons that are actually the fruit bearing in the tropics. Without refrigeration, we're talking about the natural sort of stuff. So yes, and that's basically the Randall cycle. Engaging it, as Philip Randall described it back in 1963, is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with it, as long as it's for a limited period of time, and you're a person living out in nature, and you need to fatten up so you've got sufficient fat stores, energy stores for the winter. But when you're doing it all year round, not a good thing. Yes, then you end up starving yourself and becoming nutrient deficient and very unhealthy, as we see people on sad diets, fat and and deficient. Bad. As I said, I've already explained, go to Jason Fung, get the protocol, and get the right testing when you need it. Kidney protocol, there is not a standard kidney protocol. People are different levels of kidney damage and kidney dysfunction. So they need to be managed in different ways. So there's not one thing. That's why I say it has to be done by a medical professional that monitors you and all that and knows what they're doing in that regard. And you may need some medications at some stage, and then they can wean you off the medication as your kidney function improves. So yes. So it's not for people on YouTube. Even if you've got knowledge, it's not for people to give advice in these sort of things where they have to be monitored. You know, I can tell you in general that basically when you look at the evidence, meat will not cause anything, because a lot of tribal populations are eating shitloads of meat on average, very high levels. And we've seen other studies that actually show high and no issues with kidney function in healthy people and all that. But once you've actually eaten inappropriate foods and you've engaged the Randall cycle for ages and caused yourself a lot of dysfunction and a lot of damage, and things are not working properly, then you need biohacks. I mean, you can get enough choline, as an example, to export fat out of your liver. But if you've basically got a fatty liver, you need shitloads more choline. And depending on what the fatty liver, you know, what your results come back with and all that, you may need to basically take milk thistle to heal and repair. You also may need to, you know, mobilize the actual sludge and improve the actual viscosity of your gallbladder so it doesn't back up, because if it's basically blocked and backing up, it can actually cause liver damage as well, you know, more psoriasis and stuff like that. So there's a whole lot of things you can do there. On that sort of stuff, I'm well versed and know what to do and all that sort of stuff. But even there, I usually tell people, go and actually do this test and that test and stuff like that. So you've got to be, you know, and it's going to be specific to where people are and all that. And I do those things for people that are in the really bad situation. And if you're in that really bad situation, drop me an email. Once I get around it, it does take me sometimes a couple of weeks to get around my emails, but once I get around it, I can direct you to tests, people to contact and stuff like that do consultancies and stuff like that. And then they can advise you also the sort of testing you can need to do and stuff like that, and how to interact with your doctor and blah, and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of layers to that. And we need to be careful not to be, you know, giving simplistic things, because they can lead people down the garden path, so to speak. Hey, Harry, can you tell me if you have Sibo candida based on the color of your tongue? Look, some people do say that. If there's a lot of white on that, it does mean that you've probably got candida. And if you've got candida, you've probably got Sibo as well. Now, that's not basically a bad thing. It's sort of a response. Candida is still important in the body, has important modulating effects in the gut microbiome. It's only when it gets overgrowth or certain bacteria are in an overgrowth state that these things get really out of whack. But as I always say to people, fix the stomach. Don't fix the candida. Don't fix the Sibo. Fix the fucking stomach. You know? And fix the gallbladder if there's an issue there. So those things, because remember, the gallbladder cleanses the bile, cleanses the small intestine. The inability for growth, and usually a lot of the actual, a lot of people don't realize, most of the actual, like a lot of bacteria that create Sibo actually are not coming so necessarily from the colon. Well, there's a bit, but the majority of a large proportion of it is coming from the mouth. And why is that happening? Well, I guess we don't have enough acidity to kill those bad bugs off, do we? So there's an acidity issue. So that Sibo can be corrected very quickly with HCl, acidifying the stomach more salt. Remember, salt helps. So you need to acidify with an artificial thing like HCl, get the hydrochloric acid up, kill everything in there, really knock for six all a lot of the pathogens that are basically deliberately, like even H. pylori, which is in a large amount of people, it tries to inhibit the production of acid in the stomach. It's a nasty thing. That's why you get ulcers, because H. pylori is trying to stop it from basically the stomach from producing more and also producing enough of the mucosal, the mucus that actually protects the stomach lining. So these are the problems with these things. So you really need to go hard on them to basically, and sometimes when you do use these HCLs, sometimes it can be quite, if you're not producing enough mucosal, you can actually get, some discomfort in the stomach, unfortunately. So you have to go a bit lower. You may need to use there are some herbs that can suppress. You may go for the option of saying, okay, I'm going to take the antibiotics, kill off the H. pylori, which then means that I can acidify slower my stomach over time without having to worry about H. pylori fighting me all the way, So there's a lot of things, in that regard. So depending, and there are some tests that can be done to check to see, they're not very accurate. That's the other problem. And so I usually don't waste minute. I usually say to people, if you got that, don't waste your time. Just fix your stomach. Get a test to find out whether you've got H. pylori. If you don't have a major issue with H. pylori, usually no. If you're using HCl and you're getting you probably have certain bacteria in there like H. pylori and others that are trying to prevent that, and are preventing also the mucus being created to protect. So you're getting that discomfort and okay, I've got those fuckers, I need to get rid of them. So yeah. So that's your one option. If you don't have that, just keep the HCLs up until you basically, because people don't need to worry. The higher the HCl amount and the lower the acidity goes, that will close the sphincter on the top, which basically will mean that you won't get any acid reflux or whatever. So very important. Fix the stomach, guys. Fix the stomach. Robert, mixing magnesium with living silica, iodine, and keeping your skin in top order. I reckon it's worth the hassle. Don't know anything about it, this protocol and all that. I mean, I do Epsom salts baths. And that's got a bit of silica in there, and and I get some iodine in my diet and all that. So but this sort of combination, never tried it. Most important thing for your skin is basically the fat soluble vitamins. Retinol and MK4 the most important. So iodine plays a role and a few other things. But, you know, tell you one thing, magnesium isn't going to give you great skin. It'll probably give you good energy, ATP, but, you know, beyond that, it's not the panacea. I'd love to see the research that would contradict me on that. Depends. I'm not really into electrolytes. If you go and check my videos, and I'm not going to cover what I've said in my videos, if you look at the excretion rate of magnesium, the excretion rate of potassium, which is well regulated by the body, the only thing you have to concern yourself about that you excrete in massive amounts is sodium, is salt. So you get your salt up, usually everything sorts itself out. You know, these electrolyte imbalances don't exist. So salt your meat and eat it, and you'll be fine. Because most people on a carnivore diet, eating some eggs, eating some dairy and all that, eating some bone broths if they're not into dairy, will usually get more than enough of the electrolytes based on the excretion rate. I've done the videos, go and check them out, find out exactly the excretion rates, look at what you're eating, and if you're getting the amount that you require or more, don't fucking worry about it, because your body will regulate the rest. As long as you keep your salt up, that's the only issue. When you're low, you've got a low insulin. The only time the reason even Walter Kempner understood this back in the 1930s, when he put people on a very high carbohydrate diet of 94%, 4% protein and 2% fat for a specific type of a specific type of kidney disease, that could have been ameliorated also with a ketogenic diet, but he wasn't aware of the John Hopkins research on ketogenic diets that they were doing for epilepsy and all that. He had come from Germany, and they'd been playing around with other sort of protocols, and so he just brought that science over that they had done on rats and tried to implement it on humans, and then saw certain therapeutic results. But he also realized that you had to have zero electrolytes, because high insulin holds in a lot of water otherwise. So if you've got a lot of electrolytes, you're going to have massive issues with water retention and bloating and all sorts of dysregulation of water management. So basically, because he knew the high insulin would hold all those electrolytes in, you didn't have to supplement. You only supplemented with basically iron, because in such a iron deficient diet, you're not going to get enough iron. So that's the only thing that he supplemented. And he only did it for a year, because he knew after that it becomes too catabolic. Something with the vegans realize after a while. That's why they get their honeymoon. 1-2 years they get a honeymoon. They lose a lot of weight because they're not engaging the Randall cycle. They get this honeymoon period, and then they go, oh, wow, this is great. And then they hit, 3 to 5 years, and then they're ex-vegans, basically. But that's another thing altogether. But no, unless you've had, really low levels of sodium for a long time, and you've been exercising and you've been losing a lot of electrolytes and stuff like that, that's probably the only time. But if you're a regular person, and you're getting enough salt in there, holding them in enough sources, go and check my videos, you should not have an issue. Harry, what are your thoughts on Saladino saying he needed some carbohydrates to prevent muscle cramping and hold on to more electrolytes? Absolute garbage. Absolute. You just need more sodium to do that. Salt, not carbohydrates. Carbohydrates is water retentive. Yes, it will hold on to more. As I said earlier, Walter Kempner actually recommended if you use carbohydrates to eliminate all high carbohydrates to eliminate all, because you're raising insulin. So I can't see the logic where in nature you would not. What happens is, let me put it this way. When you're transitioning from one diet to another, or playing around, experimenting a lot, like some of us do in our community, You can create electrolyte imbalances because of different effects of the hormonal system. That's what he may have done. Then to extrapolate from his experimentation that he should be on this to create more water retention, more electrolyte retention, is illogical to me. Usually if you keep your diet clean and it's salted animal based, what will happen is you will start noticing you need less salt. Why? Because you upregulate, and as long as you're also consuming less water, you start upregulating your antidiuretic hormones and you retain more and you need less. And things settle down and you don't have these issues. You know, I mean, I've showed you last time about my heart rate, which was, you know, in the good levels. It was about 50 odd. And even this morning, I actually checked it was 54. And it's only when I started walking around and all that got to 67. So, you know, if I had very low sodium and my antidiuretic hormones weren't upregulated, I'd be having heart palpitations and very high heart rate. Doesn't happen. When you're on a species appropriate diet and you basically allow your body to come into proper homeostasis, physiological homeostasis, it does not happen. When you fuck around and play around all the time, you're going to have issues. You know, when I basically doing certain things that can actually increase the excretion rate of water, you know, like coffee, I may have a bit of extra water that's with a bit of salt for that reason. And I can tell you from my experience, you know, when it comes to heart palpitations or anything, because I know, I can't remember who recently, what's her name? I can't remember her name. She actually had a lady that talked about this and said, you know, her clients are using a lot of magnesium and they're basically their cramping doesn't go away. Doesn't. I tried it myself. It does not fucking work. But when you up your sodium, salt fixes the cramps immediately. That's what I found from my own experience. That's what a lot of other people are finding as well. You know, look at the Japanese. They consume shitloads of Koreans, shitloads of salt. You hardly hear in that population issues of cramping. Go back years. Remember the guy that actually, Niccolo D'Antonio, or whatever his name is, who did on the salt fix, he did a thing on the salt fix. And he actually explained how people back then were consuming something like 10 times the sodium we consume today. And it's only when we went into this low sodium craze on mixed diets, low sodium, that we've seen a lot of this cramping. Cramping is endemic now amongst sad dieters, vegans. Everybody complains about, again, the same reason. Lack of salt. Everybody fears salt. And as I said, without salt, phosphorus, and protein, you cannot maintain good bone and muscle. You know, I've got to do that fucking video. Anyway, just to basically make that point quite clear to everyone. Anyway, yes, I may have to bring it forward like the rest of my life. Anyway, mince, hearts, and brisket together. Yes, beautiful. Yummy, 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 yummy. Yes. And the other thing is the type of carbohydrate that he uses. He could have basically used quite clearly dairy. And he could have used something like, if cow wasn't appropriate for him, why didn't he use something like goat milk? Goat milk is very high in both magnesium and potassium. Milk generally is high. That's why the Maasai bleed their animals to get the sodium, so they don't have this out of whack electrolyte, because they consume 4.5 litres on average. So milk has shitloads of magnesium, potassium, especially potassium. So very easily he could have picked something like that rather than honey. Honey is 7 times glycating, let alone it's got nearly 200 parts per million in terms of deuterium, which isn't good for your mitochondria, as I've been telling you guys. You know, the next worst thing is seed oils at 255. And raw sugar is 155. So it's in the middle of raw sugar and seed oils. That should tell you how bad honey is. You know, it was periodically people. What's tea? Doesn't tolerate. I don't give a fuck if he doesn't tolerate it. You know, what he should be basically doing, he can try. I mean, I know the Italians, his Italian background, Italians consume A2 milk over there, only A2 milk. There's no A1, and it may be a casein issue or than anything else. So he can always go for goat or lamb's milk or stuff like that, which a lot of Greeks consume. So that's BS as far as I'm concerned. Yes, always coming up with excuses. Or maybe because of all that fructose, he's causing himself basically some leaky gut issues, which basically are preventing him from digesting properly. Could be the problem as well. Basically, yep, exactly. Remember what, if you looked at Shane at the thing that I did with Mary, she talked about those old codgers, those old men that lived very old ages on Ikaria, the island, the blue zone. Every lunchtime, they loved pork belly, most of them. Yeah, very popular amongst the Greeks, pork. So, yeah, and the Okinawans. Actually, as I've pointed out on many occasions, the lowest aldehydes. So when you have oxidative products, oxidation in any sort of fats, the higher the oxidation, the higher you'll get aldehydes being produced. Well, lard, which is pig's fat, has got the lowest. We're talking about lard here. We're not even talking about in the bilayers in that and all the collagen fibers that actually you find in the actual fat of pork, which makes it even way more stable. We're talking about a processed fat, which is what lard is, has got lower aldehydes, just slightly, a pinch lower than tallow, which everybody venerates in our community. And then it's got lower, and then the next one up is basically with slightly higher is butter and ghee, and then olive oil much higher than all of them, than the animal products, and then basically the seed oils are just off the show. So why would a food that is consumed by Sardinians in the mountains do not consume olive oil? I can tell you. And my ancestors, like my great-grandfather lived 107, and his family, they didn't have olive oil. Greece is 80% mountainous. Only the people in the lowlands that had a bit of olive oil in some of the islands, but the bigger islands, but primarily, it was used for heating, for lamps, for light, since antiquity. The Greeks used to be the Arabs of the ancient world. That's why the Persians invaded, to get the olive oil trade off us, because that was used to light up all the cities. So it was it was basically the most popular petrochemical product or petroleum type equivalent product in that time in the past. That's what all those Persian wars were about, between the Greeks and the Persians. The rest is just basically the propaganda on both sides. The real thing was over the olive oil trade. Oil, the first oil wars in history. So, yes. But anyway, that's a side issue. Yes, pork is, yes, I love pork. So does my old man, who's 86 in January, and he basically doesn't really like beef. He has it occasionally when I encourage him, but primarily pork is his favorite meat. Anyway, how long does it take your intestinal cells to heal and change on? gut microbiome, it depends on how much damage there is. So bone broths and stuff like that can really help. Eggs are because they've got a lot of the sort of collagen type amino acids. So I usually say bone broths, eggs, really good for healing the gut. And you can scrambled eggs as well, stuff like that, whatever takes your fancy. Fat soluble vitamins, very important for the collagen degrading enzymes that are important to be regulated. So get those in. So get the fats in, and pretty much the B vitamins, which I'll be doing the videos soon. And D vitamin also plays a big role in good gut health. D vitamin is important, guys. So again, another fat soluble vitamin. Anyway, yes, definitely stay away from the pills if you can. Sometimes if you're on them, you need to be weaned off them, because some pills you can, like statins, you can get rid of them immediately. But there are some you can't. You have to wean your way off, because they can cause a lot of dysregulation and problems, and also put you at risk. So you've got to be very careful. Transition with a good doctor. Yes, rapamycin, metformin. Yes, that nonsense. Yes, no, you won't live. None of the centenarians that are around ever took rapamycin or metformin. Never did. And high levels of metformin will also inhibit gluconeogenesis and lipolysis. It actually is more for the sugar guzzlers. Basically, what they're saying is get on a sugar diet and take metformin. That's what they tell that's what they put the diabetics on. Just get on a low carb diet, because most centenarians are basically, traditionally fasting on a low carbohydrate type diets. That's what they're on, and more animal based. You just have to take a look around the world where high meat consumption and longevity. What you get is from high carbohydrate people that don't engage the Randall cycle, but eat high carbohydrates in traditional type societies. They were shorter because they didn't get enough protein. And also the other things, there were no centenarians. When they talk about these populations, they ate 60% carbohydrate and blah, 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 all that. And I say, well, show me a centenarian amongst them. Zero. It's only the meat eaters that basically got centenarians amongst them. Even in India, it's the northern part that consumes a lot of dairy and meat that basically you find centenarians. You don't find them in the south, who are all fucking vegetarians and all diabetic nowadays. So, crap. Thanks, Lukey. So even the actual observational stuff isn't there. Oh, I need to put this up. Oops. Get my mug out of there. When you drink coconut water, I found you. You have? You bad boy, you ate coconut, highly enriched in deuterium. Don't you know? You bad boy. You need to be spanked for disobeying the rule. Do not eat high deuterium foods. Coconut concentrates deuterium in the water. So coconut water is very high in deuterium. It is going to basically damage your nanomotors, and you will basically zap your energy. Do not do it. Be a good boy. And back to this bad boy. Yep. Bit of a comment there. I'm not going to, because we're about to wind it all up. I'm just quickly going through to see whether there's. Yep. Yeah, we'll have to look into the feed my dog on an animal-based diet and avoid the kibble. Yes. Yeah, pretty much. We're at the end, because I'm about to shut down. Yeah, look, I do plan to do something on NAD plus, and on basically, you know, all these supplements, NMN, NR. I've talked about them, but I need to do a proper thing covering the entire, you know, how these things work, you know, and basically certain demystify some of the nonsense that have been put out there by the Sinclairs of the world and others, because they do create a lot of confusion and are actually asking people to supplement rather than eating proper food, which isn't the right way to going about it. You won't get health out of a pill. You ultimately need to be eating food. Yes. So, yeah, guys, in that regard, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Take care. Look after yourselves. Look after your family. Yes, nurse, the NAD thing will come up. Yes, that is in the plan. And yeah, I've noticed a lot of comments around the place, and I know probably have to expedite that to basically nip it in the bud, so to speak, all this nonsense, because it's just, some of it's getting out of hand, stuff like that. It's a bit like, you know, like the stuff that people were talking about, drinking urine. And as I pointed out, it's not a good thing. Thank you, Harriet. I will definitely enjoy myself, you know. So we need to be careful about all this sort of stuff. As humans, we need to be keep our mitochondria young and healthy, because as we get older, our mitochondria become more dysfunctional and don't work. And as they become more dysfunctional, we basically age faster because we can't heal and repair ourselves. So we need to keep it. And the last thing we need to do is be putting high deuterium foods, you know, or drinks, you know, like coconut water, or basically things like honey, these sort of things in our diet. Refined sugars, obviously, soft drinks that are high in fructose and stuff like that, which is also high in deuterium. Those sort of things we need to sort of try and curtail out of our diet. And, you know, saying, well, eat that and take metformin, eat that, take rapamycin, you know, why push up the insulin to glucagon ratio? Why not keep it down? You know, if you just eat carbohydrates, it's at 4. If you basically, insulin will only be about 0.3 above baseline, so 1.3 to 1 in terms of insulin to glucagon. And then when you're basically fasting, it's 0.8. So you can actually see 0.8 to 0, it's just half, it's 50% high, or, well, we shouldn't be using relative odds ratio, but it's basically half above baseline, or the level of the glucagon, which is fine. At that level, you know, you're still getting some muscle protein synthesis, you're getting some activation of IGF-1 and mTOR, but at that low level, at 1.3, you will get low level. Remember what I've said, insulin and IGF in millions of years back when they were one, they went in lockstep, and they still do. And they will push up mTOR as well. mTOR doesn't go up on its own. It goes up together with all the other growth pathways. So when these people say, oh, mTOR, you need to take rapamycin, absolutely garbage. You take too much rapamycin on our kind of diet, where we're at 1.3, you'll be so catabolic, you'll waste away like a vegan. I mean, that's just crazy stuff. That's, you know, on a sad diet, these people are recommending, Sinclair and all that are recommending this bullshit on a sad diet. They eat a mixed diet. You guys realize that? Sinclair eats a mixed diet. That's why he recommends this shit to all these sick people that are eating the mixed diet. You know, eat your shit, your kibble and crap and mixed crap, and keep your insulin and high, and we will suppress the sugars. We will suppress the rapamycin and all that artificially, but will keep the insulin and the IGF-1 high because you can't suppress them. There's no medication for that. So basically, you create a whole lot of dysregulation. Long term, you make yourself a hell of a lot sicker, you know. The only thing is by putting the NAD plus precursors that he puts in there, he sort of helps himself a bit now that he's younger. But once he gets to my age and starts moving on, it's not going to fucking work as well. So that's when some of the, let's say, the downsides will start appearing. It's a bit like the later stages of veganism. We see the downsides. So it's only a matter of time before I can gloat. Anyway, guys, see yous. Had fun, enjoy yourselves. You two, you and you, don't play with your peckers too much. You know, it can cause blindness, according to the Catholic Church. Anyway. Anyway, see you guys. Have a good one. I will see you all in the new year. You know, on the 3rd of January. So I wish all of you and your families Happy New Year. So, and let's hope it's a hell of a lot better than the current one that we've had, that we've been in limbo year, as my friend calls it, called 2020. See you guys. Thanks. Love and kisses to all of you lovely people, and I will see you in a couple of days' time in the new year for us to celebrate the new year. I'll have to come up with a new yearly hat. I'll come up with something creative. Anyway, see you guys. The DeLorean is out of action at the moment, so you will see me in 2021 and not back then. Yes. Where were you located in 2001, Bird Brain? Are you still back there? Are you in a time loop? Anyway, let's go. Let's see you. See you guys.